membership, which you might know as owners of the NFL, that's going down in Florida this weekend and next week. Tom Pelissero joining us here on a Thursday because he's traveling on his usual Friday. Good to see you, Tom. How are you?
Good to see you, Rich. What's up to my boys in the studio?
Tommy. Now, the owners' meeting, as it is referred to.
Do they greet each other like that?
They do not.
Oh, they should.
Maybe some do. It is a vestige that coaches go, and it's the most chill. It's the last, I think, what would you say, chill environment in which you see coaches before draft and before OTAs, where coaches are still in off-season kind of chill mode. General managers is feeling the same, although everybody's bosses are walking around, so you do have to, stand up straight. All the league partners and media are there. It's kind of a convention and a little bit of a bash, Tom, right?
And it's gotten shorter over the years. It used to extend over 3 days. Now they kind of get going with some committee meetings on Sunday. Then it's Monday and early Tuesday are kind of the meetings, and then everybody is out of there by Tuesday evening. So we'll be sticking around doing the insiders at 7 p.m. Eastern time on Monday and Tuesday nights.
Awesome.
From the site of the meeting in West Palm Beach. But yeah, it's a different type of an environment. There are rules, discussions, and things like that. But for a lot of the coaches, it's, they're sitting down with EA and doing body scans for the new Madden game, and they're meeting with the companies that outfit like the things that they wear on the sideline and seeing new hats and things like that and making suggestions. There's all kinds of different things. We also, for NFL Network, get to sit down with a lot of the head coaches and some of the GMs and do interviews and catch up, because in many cases, the guys who have had all kinds of free agency stuff, whether it's gains or losses or trades, they haven't really talked since then. And so this is a really interesting and unique time to get the updates for most of the 32 teams.
Yeah, and all coaches, or most of them, sit down at a circular table at a breakfast, I guess after they eat. And
I'm told
we're changing this. We're not, it's not going to be like a media scrum.
Some breaking news. I am told it's no longer a breakfast. It is now a media availability. We've eliminated the food after years of the awkwardness of a coach coming over with a huge plate of food and then realizing there's 20 cameras around and not touching it. Now it's a 30-minute media availability, after which I presume they can go and get breakfast on their own.
That's one of the best memes, like Bill Belichick drinking orange juice.
Well, Bill never did those anyway. Bill never sat at a table and had a scrum around him. Like not a
few times. Because there's the famous one of him when he sits down and he pushes all the microphones and recorders away from himself to clear space because he doesn't like it immediately in front of him. There was one year that he showed up, I want to say it was about a half hour into the breakfast, and didn't go to his table. He just stood against the wall, and Stacey James was like, Bill's over here. And then everybody just went to get Bill against the wall. He chose to do things his own way. I would anticipate most of the coaches this year will physically sit at the tables that they are assigned to. And again, you got roving reporters from other markets and things like that. And it's, a little bit of a free-for-all, one of the last events that's, kind of informal, but this big that the NFL still does.
So the question is when Tomlin sits down for the AFC coaches media availability, formerly known as breakfast, will he have anything to say about Aaron Rodgers, his new quarterback, or is he just going to know the questions are coming and deflect? I mean, what do you think is the timeline, dare I even ask, in regards to Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers, Tom?
It's still Aaron Rodgers' timeline. As of right now, 1:27 Eastern on Thursday before the meetings. There is not a firm and final word from Aaron Rodgers. What we do know, based upon what's played out here in the past few days, is that Aaron Rodgers' options, and I think that realistically it's been this way for a while, but now very publicly, his options are sign with the Steelers or wait/retire. I don't anticipate that we're going to get a retirement announcement. Anything's possible. And as one of Rodgers' mentors, Brett Favre, has shown several times in the past, just because you retire doesn't mean that means you're done playing. But I would think that, at this point, Aaron's got to make a decision. You've already heard from voices, including Cam Hayward on this show, who've made pretty clear that, they'd like to get an answer and know what direction the franchise is going here. But Mike Tomlin it seems like, is patient and is willing to wait for a player that he's really coveted for some time. And this is a unique opportunity to get a 4-time NFL MVP, one that's had a cat and mouse game with Tomlin in the past, and the hard counts and the timeouts and the byplay that they've had within the course of games. The Steelers feel like they are set up really well to be a factor this year in the AFC and in a really tough AFC North division, in terms of they went out and they got another receiver in DK Metcalf, who, as of right now, he and George Pickens on opposite sides can create all kinds of matchup nightmares, on top of having Pat Freiermuth, on top of having Jaylen Warren in the backfield, potentially drafting somebody. They feel like if the offensive line is healthy, they can be good. And that defense should be really good, too. This is set up from a football perspective for Aaron Rodgers to step in. And if he's healthy and if he can channel what he flashed at times down the stretch last season, to have a lot of success. Rodgers is 41 years old. He has been beat up. He's been beaten down. He had a really bad taste in his mouth from the Jets. I do still believe, and I know that I felt this way a week ago too, it does seem like we're closer to a Rodgers decision. That's something that could happen in the next few days here. But there are no guarantees, because it's Aaron Rodgers. And if he has proven anything over the past 5, 6, 7 years, it's that he is operating on his own process and his own timeline.
Well, clearly the Giants think he's going to the Steelers, right? I mean, the Giants within a couple of days, if not one day after Rodgers appeared at the Steelers facility. And, of course, we always view things from our lens, certainly on this show, where Rodgers shows up, then Jameis signs, and then Russ signs. There must have been signs before Rodgers even showed up in Pittsburgh to the Giants that it wasn't happening. So,
I would say people familiar with the dynamics always believed that Rodgers was much more likely to go to the Steelers than the Giants. There was ongoing communication still with Rodgers' agent, Dave Dunn, and the Giants. They felt like there was still an opportunity there. But it seemed pretty clear that Rodgers was going to lean toward going to the Steelers if the Vikings weren't an option. And that was made clear about 9 or 10 days ago to Aaron Rodgers, that right now they're just not going in that direction. So that all leaves us with, what is Aaron Rodgers really deciding here? Well, a big part of it is he willing to fully commit? And does he believe that it's in his best interest to go right now to leap at the one job that's out there for him, which is the Steelers? Because the other teams that don't have starting quarterbacks right now, it's the Browns. I don't see Aaron Rodgers going to Cleveland. And the Titans, I don't see Aaron Rodgers going to Tennessee, especially because, the prevailing thought at this point is that they likely will stand in and take Cam Ward with the number 1 overall pick. If Aaron Rodgers wants to know that he's going to be a starter in week 1 of the 2025 season, it's Pittsburgh. They've had the parameters in place on the contract for weeks. There's nothing financially that's going to stand in the way of this. The only thing left is for Aaron Rodgers to say, I'm in. Is that going to come today? Is that going to come next week? We just don't have that answer just yet. But to the extent that people are waiting for somebody in Pittsburgh to say, all right, we've waited long enough, we're out, I don't get the sense that we're at that point yet, in large part because, like I said, Mike Tomlin has had a relationship and an affinity for Aaron Rodgers for a long time. This idea that if they're patient, they may have one of the greatest quarterbacks of his generation, albeit not at his peak of his career, it's alluring enough that the same coach who last year jettisoned Mason Rudolph, who they'd just been to a playoff game with, for the combination of Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, who now, oddly enough, are both in New York, now potentially having the opportunity again to try to fix that one spot. That seems to be how Tomlin's thinking about this, which is we have all these other pieces in place. We just haven't gotten the quarterback right just yet. Could they draft one? Absolutely, that's a possibility, and they've shown they win games with Mason Rudolph, but they're keeping that door wide open for Aaron Rodgers at this point, and we'll see if Rodgers ultimately decides he's willing to jump in with both feet.
Tom Pelissero here on the Rich Eisen Show before he jets off to the owners' meeting at some undisclosed bunker in a posh part of Florida, right here on the Rich Eisen Show.
No breakfast means.
No breakfast. You know, bring your own eggs.
They're expensive.
Well, I would say this too, real quick. This also, the non-breakfast, also eliminates the awkwardness of at the end of the breakfast in recent years where the reporters would stand up and the people would already be taking away the big metal trays, and then you'd have to beg to get the eggs brought back out. That was an ongoing back and forth, and I have been in